Welcome, everyone, to Good Thinking Live. This is the show where we meet many Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific time here in the United States, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, where we meet here on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube Live to spend a little bit of time thinking about our thinking. So setting aside all the time that we spend on what to think so we can think about our thinking, improve how we think. So welcome back, many of you regular good thinkers. I love having you here, and welcome new good thinkers. And for new good thinkers, the old good thinkers, the regular good thinkers know the drill. Put your name and where you're from in the chat. Because one of the things that's interesting about this is to see all of the different viewpoints and perspectives of people from all over the world. So welcome to the show. I'm excited. There's going to be a lot of interaction, and I'm going to try to bring your comments into the live stream as much as possible, but sometimes it goes too fast and I miss you. So if I do, it's not intentional. I'm going to try to get to everyone as we go. So we usually start out with a question. So definitely get your name, where you're from in the chat. Here is the first question, because we're talking about the difference between being intelligent, having intelligence and having critical thinking skills. And what is this difference? So I'm going to say hi to a few people after I ask this one question. Who here, and there's going to be a series of them, who here thinks that they're more intelligent and less of a critical thinker? And who here thinks that they're more of a critical thinker but less intelligent? And who here thinks that they're not really sure about the difference? So if you think you're more intelligent than you are a critical thinker, put an I in the chat. And if you think that you're more of a critical thinker and less intelligent, put a CT in the chat. And if you're not sure of the difference, put a not sure in the chat. Okay, now I'm going to go back up and see. We've got a lot of people. We've got a LinkedIn user from Islamabad. So I don't know your name. Sometimes it shows up LinkedIn user. I'm not really sure. We've got Doris from San Antonio, Barkley from Portland, Oregon, and Sajis from India. And we've got Narottam from India. And we've got Suleiman from Turkey. Hello, Farshid from, I don't know where you're from, but welcome to the show. And we've got Kushani. Hi, all. I'm Kushani from Sri Lanka. Nice to meet you all. And Ashish from New Delhi, India. And Wassam from Egypt. And we've got someone coming in from California, just my neighbor to the south. And we've got Elise from Tunisia. And we have, Praveen Kumar from India. And we have got Ruth from El Salvador and Doris. Okay, Doris, first answer. Rubber chicken, first answer. Doris says more intelligent and less of a critical thinker. So like the scale would be toward intelligence versus critical thinking. Excellent. And we have got Sadat from Afghanistan. So we've got someone else. Rubber chicken, not sure. Mubanga, not sure. And that is legit. We've got Sajis, more of a critical thinker. So the scale tilts this way, and a little of both. Emily says a little of both. Hi, Yusuf from Nigeria. And we have got someone else, a LinkedIn user, saying more of a critical thinker. And I think this is really interesting. We'll see if everyone agrees on the distinction. And we've got Abdul Laziz from Saudi, KSA. And then we've got Ezra from Kenya. And hi, dear, I'm Dr. Tajwar from UAE. Hello, Emily, Chicagoland area. And Fatma from North Carolina. And Moses from Uganda. And Mahul from Bharat. And Akali from India. We're going to try to get everyone in here saying that we're going to get to we have got Tommy Zudin from Bahrain. And okay, so we've got someone else, critical thinker, probably more intelligence. Maybe that was what, Robert, hello. Safiat from Nigeria. Fatima from Sudan. So we've got people. This is what's cool. Keep it coming. And I'm going to remove the banner, which asks people to tell me who you are and where you're from. But keep them coming so we have more room for your comments. All right. So did we get that? I need to get the banner off. Let's do that. We want to hide that banner. All right. So what is the difference between intelligence and critical thinking? Because that's really the topic for today. There's many definitions of intelligence. and the many, many, and this is a debated thing, but let's take a little trip down memory lane so we can kind of frame intelligence, and then we'll frame critical thinking, and we'll see how you can think about each one differently. And why would you? Because it could be a powerful tool for you. And we're going to talk about that at the end. All right. So let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's do intelligence in 3 acts. Act 1. Act 1. And, you can go back to the discussion of intelligence, but I'm more talking about measuring intelligence because, people talked about all these different kinds of things back in the day. But Act 1 really starts with some sketchiness with Charlie Darwin's cousin Galton. And Galton was kind of the founder of eugenics. And eugenics is a very controversial because it was mired in racism and anti-Semitism and all kinds of badness. But it was a way to identify identify who is intelligent using scales that were kind of a little bit of pseudoscience, and actually it had its roots in the United States, and so Stanford and some of these major universities embraced eugenics as a form of kind of thinking about intelligence, and that was also embraced by Nazi Germany. So intelligence has a very sordid past. Act 2, enter Alfred Binet. Now, Alfred Binet was a French psychologist in the early 20th century who was tasked by the French government to identify children who might need special education. So in here, this is kind of where the first measurement came in, the first number came in, because he's the one that came up with the intelligence quotient, which was putting a score on mental age and divided by chronological age, and then it was times 100, and that became your IQ. So that's where IQ, or intelligence quotient, started. But it was really started in the education realm to identify which students would need special education and which would do better as a predictive model for who would do better in traditional schooling. So that's Act 2. Does anyone know what Act 3 is? And while I ask that question, I'm going to welcome some more people onto the show. We have got Okilis from Haiti, and we have got Geraldina from El Salvador, and Farshid. One of the important results of good thinking is better stress management and coping skills during stressful moments. I completely agree. When you're able to really take a step back and think about your thinking, it's a game changer. It's a game changer to move from auto mode to thoughtful mode. I completely agree with that statement. Mohammed, right at your door from planet Earth, Pakistan. Yes, I love it. I'm practically a critical thinker and trying to be a smarter thinker and creating the action I was thinking. Fantastic. Hi, Paul from England. Okay, so let me tell you about Act 3. So we've got this kind of sorted Act 1. We've got an interesting kind of education, Act 2. Act 3, just when you thought IQ, intelligence quotient, would reign supreme forever, along comes thinkers like Howard Gardner, 1983. These are more modern times. Robert Sternberg and Daniel Goldman in the 1990s. Who knows who Daniel Goldman is and what he is famous for? Well, who knows what these people meant to the study of intelligence? Anyone want to take a stab? Well, suddenly, intelligence wasn't just about solving puzzles and doing math, which tend to be predictive, is a good predictor of how you would do in traditional schooling, which may or may not matter. But now intelligence becomes much more about all kinds of things like emotional depth, EQ. Thank you, Goldman. Or creative thinking and cultural adaptability. So I'm going to give you all some types of intelligence, and you tell me, when you think of intelligence, put in the chat, which type do you think you really rock? Like, you know what? This is, when you say this kind of intelligence, this really resonates with me. Ready? Linguistic intelligence, the word wizards. Who of you is a word wizard? Okay. Logical math intelligence, number nerds. Who are the number nerds among us? Who are the number nerds? How about musical intelligence? Melody maestros or maestros. How about body kinetic intelligence? This is dance dynamos or sports stars. Intrapersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is self-aware, those self-aware souls. How about interpersonal interpersonal, the people persons. Naturalistic intelligence, you can navigate nature. You can plop right down anywhere and you can kind of forge for yourself. Self-reliance in natural settings. And then existential intelligence, life ponderers, who put in the chat, what kind of intelligence do you think you really, if you had to rank, like, I'm best at this. Like, I know that I probably wouldn't be a naturalistic intelligence. Like, I think if I was plopped down in nature, because I don't have a lot of experience, navigating. I love nature. I love to hike, but I don't have a lot of experience. Like, if I was plopped down in the middle of nowhere to navigate stuff and figure out what wild berries and be smart about, that would not be me at all. It's kind of one of the things I think I should get better at. Okay. So we've got, hi, Roger from India. We've got emotional. Emily says emotional and linguistic. Okay. So Doris, what do you say? What kind of intelligence? Oh, linguistic. Aha. Intra. So Fatima says intra. That's the self-awareness. I think these are also important. Of all the different types of intelligence, my favorite may be Raymond Cattell's fluid and crystallized intelligence. And this is kind of a distinction that is kind of how to think about your thinking of intelligence. Fluid intelligence is your ability to think on your feet. So you get these different scenarios, you're very adaptive, you can think on your feet. Whereas crystallized intelligence is the knowledge accumulated over time. The knowledge accumulated over time. So think of this as the difference between being a quick thinker and a trivia champ. What would you say for yourself? Or what would you say, how you feel? Are you more of a quick thinker or a trivia champ? What do you think? I might be more of if I had to choose, I might be more of a quick thinker. Let me say, okay, so what is interpersonal intelligence? That is people, how much you understand other people. Do you have that skill that's just what I can read the room, I can understand? That's the interpersonal, whereas intra is how well you understand yourself. Hey, Abdurrashid, welcome. Coming streaming on YouTube. Love it. Okay, quick. So Emily says quick thinker, fluid intelligence. Fantastic. Roger says fluid intelligence. So we've got these different kinds of intelligence. I'm going to give a definition of intelligence so that we can then contrast it with critical thinking, because that's the point, right? So I like this one. Tell me what you think. Intelligence is the ability to perform well across a wide range of environments. Environments meaning situations, whatever. The ability to perform well across a wide range of situations, environments, etc. I like that definition. Let me know if you like that definition or you think it's kind of not so clear. Let me know what you think. Hi, Jeff. Jeff, welcome. Hi to everyone. Babul, hello. Hi, nice to welcome you. So intra. So Yusuf says intra, self-awareness. All right. What do you think of that? My focus of my favorite definition of intelligence really has to do with generality, because it's the ability to apply successful strategies across a wide range of environments or situations. And in that case, it's almost all-encompassing. It doesn't matter if you're a massively great sports star or a kinetic intelligence, or your emotional intelligence, which is maybe inter or intra. Some people who feel that they have a high emotional intelligence may be better with inter versus intra. But I like that generality. All right. So we're going to pull up some comments and then we're going to get into critical thinking and we're going to make some comparisons, and I'm going to make a case for critical thinking. Hi, Natalie. Okay, Abdurrashid is also related to productivity and problem solving. Productivity is an interesting one. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about maybe the time has come. Curious what you think. I don't want to get too far off track, but just and we could talk about this in another good thinking if you're interested. Maybe the time has come to set aside productivity as a measure of the quality of human contribution. Let's talk about that with AI and all that stuff. Okay, hello, Madden. And okay, thank you very much for your attention and interaction. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so Mubanga, do you think, so you like that definition? I do too. I appreciate that. I like that definition of generality. So what is it, how does artificial intelligence fit in? How does it fit in with this definition, is the ability to perform well over a wide range of environments? And when you think about artificial intelligence, which is a totally different topic, but it does relate to intelligence, what makes artificial intelligence intelligent. And you can't think about just what it looks like today, but what it might look like tomorrow or in the future. All right. So think about that. Critical thinking. What about the definition of critical thinking? Critical thinking is the ability to think clearly and rationally to understand logical connections between ideas with the goal of figuring out what is really true. That's why critical thinking can be a little bit sneaky, and we'll get into how critical thinking, what can prevent you from using critical thinking, because sometimes it's within us and sometimes it's within your culture, or extra. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes endogenous, and sometimes it's exogenous. All right. So after I was referring to cognitive intelligence. Oh, okay. Fair enough. That's good. So Barclay says, I like that definition, but still think of someone intelligent if they perform exceptionally well only in one situation. That's kind of an interesting. I don't know. Do you agree? I think that's interesting. Is interpersonal intelligence the same as social intelligence? Yeah, definitely related. I would think yes. That's a good question. Yes. So Barclay says, but that might be because I assume that they can perform well in other situations if they tried. I think so too. Is intelligence being able to perform well in one specific area, or does it require generality? Artificial intelligence can't deal with emotional situations, at least not yet. Hold your horses. Things can change. All right. Critical thinking is less about performing well in various situations and more about being able to effectively analyze, interpret, and evaluate information. So intelligence is usually seen as performance, whereas critical thinking may be something deeper. So intelligence might help you quickly adapt and find solutions in diverse environments, whereas critical thinking ensures that the solutions you come up with are well-founded, logical, and justifiable. So you could come up with all kinds of solutions, but whether they are founded in logic and truth and reason is the critical thinking. It's like this. Intelligence is your ability to navigate different terrains effectively, whereas critical thinking is your ability to read the map, question whether the ferry is faster than the bridge, and figure out if the map is even accurate to begin with. Intelligence gets you through the landscape, but critical thinking ensures that you're taking the wisest route. So the difference comes into view when you try this little thought experiment. Who's up for a thought experiment? It's just fun, just a fun way to exercise your brain. There's no right or wrong answer. That's what I like about a thought experiment. So you don't have to get that test anxiety because there's no right or wrong answer. But let's just say that you give yourself a goal you're going to give yourself 4 goals over the next 2 years. You're going to break up each year into 2 goals. So you're going to have goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and goal 4. They're all different goals. The first 6 months, you're going to try to become more intelligent. Okay, that's your goal. I'm going to try to become more intelligent for the first 6 months. So how are some of the ways you do this? Who can tell me some of the ways you would try in the first 6 months of this experiment to become more intelligent? While you're thinking of that, I'm going to say, hi, artificial intelligence. Oh, we have said that. Abdurrachid, I would refer to critical thinking as the compass. Aha, I like it. I like it a lot. How would you work to become more intelligent? Maybe math puzzles, reading challenges, reading thought-expanding books. Now remember, intelligence is the ability to adapt and perform well across a diverse range of experiences. Okay? How would you measure your progress? How would you know, like, hey, I'm more intelligent now than I was 6? How would you know if your 6-month experiment worked? Well, maybe you would take an IQ test. You would take a before test, IQ test, and an after IQ test. All right. So you would maybe check your reading comprehension or your speed or your information retention. There are all kinds of intelligences you could specify, and you could choose how to improve and how to measure. But in this thought experiment, you should have some verifiable way to measure. So think about that. Because the second 6 months, you're going to become better at critical thinking. So how are some ways you would become better at critical thinking that would be different than the ways that you would become more intelligent or better at intelligence? That's how you want to put it. All right. So Abdurrachid says, become more productive, reduce the time required to finish tasks and learn and master new skills. So that might be intelligence, right? Probably intelligence. But how would you, well, maybe you would take one of our LinkedIn learning courses on critical thinking. Maybe that's one of the ways. So you could kind of know. Or maybe you would learn about biases and logical fallacies and practice verifying the reliability and the relevance of information that you use to make decisions. And maybe you would only make clear and valid arguments. You wouldn't make those fallacious arguments. You'd be like really clear about the arguments you make, the conclusions you draw, the information you choose to believe. Someone sends you something on the internet and you've turned up your skepticism meter and you're like, how do I know if this is really true? Aha. So Wordle games. That's great. I love it. Roger, I'm so glad you said that. What do you think? Are Wordle games more toward increasing your intelligence or increasing your critical thinking? Daily monitoring progress. Okay, what would you monitor? Sajish, what would you monitor? All right. So maybe there is all kinds of things. How would you measure your progress on critical thinking? Well, you count your logical fallacies and you would identify your conclusions. Maybe you'd rate the quality of your decision making. Say, okay, maybe you make fewer intuitive or emotional decisions and more logic-based decisions. But you would score yourself. You have to score yourself on the ability to do something. So maybe now you can just deconstruct an argument into its component parts. Like I'm better at critical thinking because I know the difference between a premise and reasoning and conclusion, that kind of thing. Okay. So now we've got the first year. We got better at intelligence and we got better at critical thinking, but now we're going to do something really weird. We're going to get worse at intelligence. Then the second half, we're going to get worse at critical thinking. All right. So what does this mean? Are you going to actively try to get worse? How do you get worse at intelligence? How would you do that? Well, maybe you could dumb down your answers to an IQ test, but that's really cheating because if you know the answer and you just answer incorrectly, you're just cheating to get a better score. How do you reduce your intelligence? All right. Well, you could go around being dehydrated. You could, do something where you land on your head. You could get less sleep, eat more junk food, expose yourself to pollution. But a lot of that would be physiological things that you would do to have to reduce your intelligence. Now it's time for the last 6 months. Can you guess your goal? Yep. You're going to reduce critical thinking. Well, how would you do that? Well, you could make only knee-jerk decisions, not wasting any time to think deeply. Skip every good thinking show that you can possibly join. Keep your mind closed to new information. Make arguments without thinking about the meaning of concepts. So someone says, well, that's the way to get successful. And you're like, oh, I don't. And you're arguing about two different definitions of success. You can ignore the crisp concept clarity. Avoid consuming, considering where the information you consume comes from. You don't care. It's like, I see this video. I don't care if it's a deep fake. I don't care at all. Now, when you talk about intelligence being innate, what do we mean by innate? What is more difficult, to reduce your intelligence or reduce your critical thinking? Okay, what's more? Do you see the difference? How many of you are still confused a little bit about the difference? We're going to get into a little bit more of that. Well, so we say you discover new things that will cause you to become humble, and what you learned before and hunger for more, that would be excellent for increasing critical thinking. Excellent. Talk to stupid people a lot. Oh my God, love that one. That's hilarious. And that could, just being around just less, stupid people. I don't know what, whatever, but people who might be not as deep thinkers, whatever. So when we talk about intelligence being innate, we're saying that it's hardwired or built in, because there is an element of intelligence that probably is, given to us by the humans that came before us. So picture it like a computer you buy off the shelf. It becomes preloaded with an operating system and basic software. So we get that stuff, we come preloaded with some genetic stuff, but you didn't install that stuff because, it came with us. But it's not the end of the story. You can upgrade your operating system. You can tweak, install more RAM, install more, you can get smarter. So intelligence, people talk about it innate, but innate also means you can upgrade your operating system. All right. You can modify intelligence, but only to some extent. You can get taller, eating the right foods, being exposed in the right environments where you were born, the luck of where you were born. But, there's only so much. I'm never going to be 7 feet tall. So there is some limit, maybe, whether we like it or not, but it's not immutable. I mean, it's not static. It's more like a starting point rather than your final destination. Differences in intelligence can reflect different starting points, or they can reflect different destinations, or both. It's what you start with plus what you acquire along the way. What about critical thinking? Can you guess why I prefer critical thinking to intelligence? Why I'd rather become a better at critical thinking and more intelligent? And then more intelligent? Like I'd rather, if I could choose, what would I rather be, more intelligent or more of a critical thinker? I would choose critical thinker. Why? Because it's totally learnable. There is no limit, no starting point that is predetermined from which you can't move. I mean, with intelligence, you can add, but you may not ever get 7 feet tall, right? Critical thinking is not innate. Now, I might be more innately emotional and have to work on setting my emotions aside when, so they don't cloud my ability to see reason. But I can find workarounds for this. If I know exactly what critical thinking is and what it's not, and I know what to do and how to measure it. So my preference for critical thinking over uber intelligence has to do with my preference for being smart versus being wise. What's the difference between being smart and being wise? Aha. So Madonna says, is critical thinking overthinking? No. Critical thinking is not overthinking. Critical thinking is analyzing whether the information you are choosing to make decisions are based on reliable, relevant, and valid information. So critical thinking is not overthinking. Now, you could overthink in the process, but critical thinking is not about criticizing. It's about judging with skepticism and looking deeper to say, how can I find out if this is really true? Because you aim for enhancing the quality of information you produce and receive. I mean, that is perfect. The reason I like critical thinking, Abdurraj had summed it up just so, because it helps me aim for enhancing the quality of information that I produce. So the quality of the things I say, the arguments I make, and it helps me assess the quality of the information I receive. So I know what to believe. So that is super important. So think of it like this: innate intelligence versus learned critical thinking. Both are cognitive abilities that involve processing and applying information. They're complementary for sure. Intelligence is broader. Critical thinking focuses on the quality of thinking and decision making. So do you know anyone who's intelligent but not a critical thinker? That person may excel in academic settings, but falter in real world problem solving, for example. What about this? Do you know anyone who's a great critical thinker, but they're not highly intelligent? This person may struggle with academic tests, but excel at situational problem solving. Do you know anyone? Better at intelligence, better at critical thinking. That's kind of where we started with the very first question. So does being more intelligent make you a better critical thinker? Are the most intelligent people also the best critical thinkers? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? What do you think? I think no. What about this? Does being a better critical thinker make you more intelligent? This is why I favor critical thinking. I think yes. This is why critical thinking is so exciting, because anyone can learn as long as they have two important things in place. All right? Does anyone want to take a guess? What's the requirement you need before embarking on a journey of becoming a better critical thinker? What's the one thing? Anyone? You need the ability to change your mind in the face of reliable, relevant evidence, new evidence. You need to be able to change your mind. We call that mental updating, not being wishy-washy, mental updating. All right? So if you're unwilling to change your mind, you might want to change your mind, but you know that updating in the face of new, reliable, relevant evidence is required. So you may be able to change your mind, but not willing to change your mind. You may be willing to change your mind and not able to change your mind. Wait, what? Well, what are some reasons that you might not be willing to change your mind? Well, it feels hard. I can do it, but it feels too hard. I'm not willing to do it. None of the people in your sphere value thinking in ways that are different from your own. You're going to be judged by your friends and maybe lose them as friends. What else? What are some reasons that you're willing to change your mind, but you're unable to change your mind? Maybe cultural constraints. I'm willing to do it, but I'm not able to do it because if I do it, something bad's going to happen to me. Not just losing friends, but something bad's going to happen to me. So those are some things, willing and able. You have to be willing and able to change your mind. You have to kind of know the difference between critical thinking and intelligence. We've got, Abdurrahman just said, change your mind. He got it. Ding, ding, ding. Fatima says, yes, I met people that are in critical thinking, but not that intelligent. And that's totally that's super interesting. And we know the opposite too. Really intelligent people, but not so great at critical thinking. But our goal is to work to improve both. Actually, it's a critical thinking killer to be reluctant to change your mind. Yes, it's one of the key 5 critical thinking killers. You mentioned in the course in LinkedIn about critical thinking and decision-making. Yep, and that is true. Critical thinking for better judgment decision-making, I think, is the course on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn Learning that we mentioned. So here's the good thinking challenge. I want to thank you for being good thinkers and navigating this complex terrain of critical thinking, realizing that they're not one and the same. Intelligence might open doors, but critical thinking is what will wisely help you navigate through life's challenging mazes in the pursuit of what's true. So the challenge: don't merely aim to be the smartest person in the room. Strive to be the most thoughtful. The world has lots of intelligent people, yet what it yearns for are discerning minds that can sift through the noise and find the truth, to make ethically sound decisions and inspire others to do the same. So exercise your beautiful brain to not just collect knowledge, but to challenge, question, and reframe it. Because the quality of your thinking is the ultimate competitive and cooperative advantage. Thanks for being here. Check us out. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn, Becky Saltzman. Follow YouTube. It's, all we do is just kind of post this, but you'll get notifications if you follow Becky Saltzman. You'll get notifications for when the next Good Thinking Live is. When we do it, it is Mondays right here, Monday morning, West Coast, United States time, 9 a.m. Follow, subscribe. We love to have all of you good thinkers join us and go teach a couple of other people this way. Let's try to spread this distinction to make the world a more thoughtful place. Thanks. Have a great week.